There's the logo, by the way, Hootenanny, Ken Onion. What a cool name, right? By the way, this does have the IKBS bearing system in the pivot, which is fantastic and incredibly smooth and so fast and just flies out and requires no flick, no nothing. Oh man, that is so nice. I will take a bearing pivot anytime I can get it. Welcome back. You're watching the Late Boy Scout channel and you've tuned in to my review of the CRKT Hootenanny from our friend Ken Onion. Yeah, man, this guy is a classic knife maker. I don't really need to say anything about him. You guys know, Ken Onion is the bomb, right? I'm going to bring out a couple other Ken Onion knives here in a little bit, but we're going to just bask in the Hootenanny for a little bit and enjoy the amazing design here. This is fantastic, guys, and I'm going to show you some testing of this knife very shortly here in this video that, goodness, I was just really impressed with the ergonomics of this little blade. I mean, look at that. Here it is in hand, all right? It's not that big, all right? It doesn't seem like it's not that thick either. So where are the ergonomics? Where's the stuff that's going to help me out and make this super comfortable in hand for hard work? I don't know where it is, but somehow this thing was extremely comfortable doing all the work that I did with it. And we'll get into that as we show you the testing here in a little bit. But first, we'll just kind of get into the knife. Some of the features, some of the materials. It is 8CR13 MOV steel. A decent steel, Chinese made, that works well, has to be resharpened fairly frequently, and it holds up to just about whatever, but yeah, again, it's not the best for edge retention, can rust, all that other stuff. You guys are probably familiar with it. It's an inexpensive steel that does an alright job. I don't mind it. There's the logo, by the way, Hootenanny, Ken Onion. What a cool name, right? By the way, this does have the IKBS bearing system in the pivot, which is fantastic and incredibly smooth and so fast and just flies out and requires no flick, no nothing. Oh man, that is so nice. I will take a bearing pivot anytime I can get it, and I'll compare it to at least one other bearing pivot knife here in a little bit. The steel, as I mentioned, is ACR13 MOV. The blade length, 3.375, a good length for EDC, I think. It is what I would call, and what he would call, a frame block, because this area that looks to be bolstered is really just part of the frame. So, I mean, there's some really interesting design to this. You know, that's obviously that bolstered top part of the frame, comes down here, then we've got a scale over the top of the frame, rounding it and giving it some comfort, having a nice, what is that, kind of a fish scale, dragon scale, sort of a texture or appearance. Anyway, it's very nice looking. Really attractive. Doesn't provide a lot of grip. It provides some texture, just a little bit, but not so much grip. If you take these off, the scales off, both sides, the knife still works. Yeah, still works just fine. So you don't, of course, you wouldn't be very comfortable to use, but again, these are not structural. That's my point. Pocket clip way back here, following the spine of the knife, which is a very cool thing. Helps it to sort of disappear in pocket. It also adds to the comfort ergonomically, because that is sort of back in the meat of your palm rather than fighting with your pinky or any of these other things as you're kind of dealing with some cuts. That's something to consider, and I'm glad that Ken Onion considered it and thought that out. Otherwise, the shape of it works well. I did have to take it off at one point and do some bending to bring it back, or did it not come tight enough? I can't remember, to be honest. It's good and tight now, though, and it works well. A little back strap on here. It looks like a type of a plastic. This is a type of a plastic as well. I'm going to say that's like a FRN-ish material, something like that. Definitely not carbon fiber or anything like that. It is just a simple plasticky material. And that's what we have here as well. Again, it's kind of a FRN type of material. It works well. Gives you a nice, you know, a little bit of a texture there to help you hold on to it. Got a little bit of a jimping up here on top of the bolstered area of the frame. These little cutouts just for decoration, but aren't they good looking? And we have a great looking pivot there as well. That's cool. Obviously, it's just a screw, just screws into that, but we've just kind of got a big flared head to that pivot, once again for good looks. And pretty much, you know, a lot of the features on this knife, it's not expensive materials. Not expensive construction, but they've given it a lot of just aesthetics, you know, and so all that aesthetic appeal also means a lot of machining touches, which brings the price up to about $45. Okay, so you can get 8CR13 MOV steel blades for around $20-$25 or less, depending if where you shop around. So if it's just the steel type you're concerned about, it's a little high for what you're getting. But that's not all you're getting. You're also getting just fantastic design and ergonomics. So yeah, I'd say it's worth it. If I didn't mention that though, however, CRKT did send this one to me. Ben, my buddy over there, sent this one to me for review. I did not purchase it. If I did, I'd be saying the exact same things about it, and I'd be happy to purchase it, really. All right, so we've got some jimping up there on the top of the blade as well, allowing you to get some great kind of controlled cuts there. Oh man, it is just so cool. So what I understand is this was designed to be, was it like a fishing knife or something like that? I can't remember. But Ken Onion had some plans for this knife, or had used this design for more of an outdoor hunting type application, game application. And then CRKT said, let us make that into an EDC knife. He gave the okay, they turned it into this, and it's just fantastic. It really, really won, in my opinion. You guys might have seen this in my SHOT Show video that I did with CRKT, Ben over there. And this is one that I raved about right off the bat. I knew I needed to have it. It's great. It's fantastic. So I've done some testing with this. Oh, I haven't mentioned this yet. There's a little bit of jimping up here. You can sort of get your finger up there and do a little bit of cuts, and you could kind of do something like this. If your fingers are not big and fat, mine kind of are, so they would probably ride up a little dangerously close to the edge. But if you wanted to, you could do some cuts like this as well. Just something to point out. And again, the liner, or frame lock I should say, is well done. It comes out just enough that you can push on that very comfortably to open it up and close it. Centering is not perfect. Have to point that out. Not that bad though, it doesn't rub against the liner, or I should say the frame, but it's real well done. I think we've covered all the aspects of the knife as far as construction and materials. Let's get into some of the tests. This knife did a fantastic job all around. Sliced some paper to start, of course, and sliced it like a champ, like a boss. Just went to town. There was a little bit of hanging up as we got going, but you know, almost any knives that I've tried will do that occasionally, especially if I have not sharpened it since having used it for other things. And this being 8CR13 MOV, yeah, it'll get dull in spots if you're going to be using it and not resharpening it frequently. So slicing some paper, it did a great job anyway. And yeah, I'll give it a pass on that. Of course, I got into some cardboard with this time some double-walled stuff, cutting it across the fluting. And I noticed right away that if I held this in a hammer grip, it was not super comfortable. It just wasn't. Something to do with the sort of horseshoe shape to the handle and how that dug into my pinky. Some other aspects to that. Not super comfortable holding it in that sort of hammer grip. When I got my thumb up on top of the blade, made a world of difference, and oh my gosh, it was just extremely comfortable. Sliced extremely well through that cardboard. It just, you know, took it apart like a boss, and was super comfortable once I changed my grip once again. I also, of course, had this knife dig into some 2x4 and just kind of see what it could do there. Once again, holding it in the hammer grip, not so comfortable. Get your hand on the, or thumb on the back of the spine, all of a sudden, it's the most comfortable knife in the world, or really close to it. It just felt great in hand. I was able to slice away and kind of dig away at that 2x4 without a lot of fatigue and with some pretty nice effective cuts. In fact, I was getting some really almost paper thin slices off of that 2x4. So it was not, you know, kind of a rough and tumble just digging in and pulling chips away. It was slicing stuff off. It was doing a really nice job. I would attribute that to the almost paper thin blade on it, an edge on it, which is hollow ground. So that allows for the very, very final terminating edge to be very, like I said, almost paper thin. So that dug into it and just kind of sliced at that 2x4 really aggressively and very, very well. So big win there as well. One last point on that ergonomic aspect of it, something to do with the way that this blade kind of dips down like this. Getting your thumb and riding it up on that, I don't know, man. Whatever it is, having your thumb in that position as you're doing some hard cuts, it just feels super comfortable. I think you're just kind of supporting the knife in the right place and taking pressure off of other areas. Anyway, whatever the case, it becomes very comfortable when you hold it that way. Let's compare this knife to a handful of other great EDC knives. There's the Hootenanny at around, what did I say, $45. We've also got, here's the Benchmade, $943. At around $170, S30V is going to hold an edge for a lot longer, no doubt, no diggity. Then there's also the CRKT, what's this one called again? The Ripple. Ah, yes, the Ripple. Also designed by Ken Onion, also featuring IKBS ball bearing pivot system. Fantastic, just so cool, love it. One more Ken Onion design, might as well since we got it handy. Kershaw Leak, one of my all-time favorites. Just love this as an EDC knife. Super thin, especially on this frame lock version of it. Carries great, very aggressive, sharp blade, and great steel 14C28N. This one's a Kudo Plus S30V if I didn't say it. Maybe one more here, just for kicks. There's the VG10 Spyderco Delica 4 full flat ground. Also a fantastic knife at around 60, no, not 60. I think it's 50 or something. I don't know. I'm just giving you really big ballpark ranges here. Excellent knives for EDC. If I didn't tell you, the Hootenanny comes in around 4.8 ounces. It's a little bit heavier for EDC as far as I'm kind of how I measure things, and heavier than any of these actually. But you don't really notice that weight, or I don't anyway. It carries really well, carries fairly nice and deep. And again, the weight is kind of up here at the bolster, kind of up here at the pivot, which, I don't know, something about that just feels great in pocket. Then again, that flipping action, that IKBS flipper is so amazingly good that I will deal with almost any potential drawback to get that on my knife. Not a lot of drawbacks on this knife that I could spy or spot out. The weight is a tiny issue from my perspective, given all the other great features. Well, that's it. That's my review of the Ken Onion Hootenanny. Isn't that fun to say? And it sure is fun to play with this knife. I'm a late Boy Scout. Thank you for watching. We'll see y'all later.
Came razor sharp. And I'm talking razor sharp. Hair popping sharp with no effort. Now, I like to see that. Definitely like to see that. I'm going to spend 40, 50 bucks on a knife. Whatever I'm going to spend. Why not have it come out razor sharp? Well, this one did.